Do you ever feel like you're just drowning in spreadsheets? I mean, you've got sales figures, customer feedback, inventory reports, but when it comes time to make those big, important decisions, you're still kind of just going with a gut feeling? Well, what if you could turn all that noise into a crystal clear signal? That's exactly what we're going to dive into today. Just think about your last weekly meeting for a second. I bet you heard questions like, did our net profit actually hit the target? How many units did we ship out last week? Is that new workflow really making us more productive? And hey, what's our ROI on that marketing campaign we just ran? You see, these aren't just numbers on a page. They are the vital signs, the very heartbeat of your business. But with all this data flying at you from every direction, it is so easy to get analysis paralysis, right? You just freeze up. So how do you find that one golden thread that leads to the right call? Well, the answer isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter. And that's where this powerful approach called quantitative analysis comes into play. So what even is this thing, quantitative analysis? Is it some kind of dark art that only data scientists with giant supercomputers can do? Absolutely not. Let's break down what it really is, nice and simple. At its heart, quantitative analysis, or QA for short, is basically a scientific method for making decisions. It's a structured process where you take all that raw, messy data and you systematically process it until it becomes something meaningful, something you can actually use to steer the ship. The whole thing kicks off with the raw data. We're talking about all those numbers, figures, and stats that are really the lifeblood of your organization. And then, through the QA process, that raw data gets transformed into clear, meaningful information that points you toward a solid solution. Now, what's really interesting is how this fits in with other ways you might think about a problem. Okay, think about it like this. You're buying a new car. The price, the gas mileage, the interest rate on the loan, those are all quantitative factors. You can literally put them in a spreadsheet and compare them. But your gut feeling about how it drives, or the reputation of the brand, those are qualitative factors. QA is all about focusing on those hard numbers to get a clear, unbiased picture. So why should you care about this? I mean, what are the real-world advantages of learning to think this way? Well, the benefits are huge. Instead of relying on guesswork, QA gives you a precise, objective point of view. And it's not a one-trick pony. You can apply it to almost any problem you can think of. And when you use it right, it leads to solutions you can actually trust. In fact, you're probably already using some form of it without even realizing it. Ultimately, what QA does is help managers do their number one job better, making the most of the resources they have. And we can think of these resources as the 4Ms of any organization. These are the fundamental building blocks of pretty much any business: manpower, machines, material, and money. QA gives you the hard data you need to make sure you're getting the absolute most out of every single one of them. So how do you actually do it? It might sound complex, but there's a really clear roadmap. We've boiled down the formal 7-step process into 4 key stages that'll guide you from a problem all the way to a data-backed solution. First up, and this is by far the most important step, you define the real problem. You gotta know what's actually going on, not just the symptoms. Second, you build a mathematical model to represent that problem, and you gather up all the data you need. Third, you use that model to find a potential solution, and then you test it to make sure it's accurate. Finally, you analyze those results and you implement your solution in the real world. Theory is great and all, but let's see how this actually works with a simple, powerful example that every single business on the planet cares about: profit. So we're going to follow that process, and we're going to build a mathematical model for profit. This is where we turn a business concept into an equation that we can actually work with. We all know the basics, right? Profit is just what's left after you subtract your expenses from your revenue. Pretty straightforward. But we can get way more specific, and that's where the real power of QA comes in. So let's break it down. Your revenue is simply the price you sell each unit for, times the number of units you sell. Easy enough. And your expenses, well, they're made up of fixed costs. Think rent, stuff that doesn't change, and variable costs, which go up with every single unit you produce. And now, we can represent this entire relationship with a really clean formula. Profit equals S times Q, that's selling price times quantity, minus F for your fixed costs, minus V times Q for your variable costs. Boom. Now we have a model we can actually use to predict things. Let's plug in some real numbers. Imagine we're rebuilding clock springs. Okay, we sell each one for $8. That's our S. We've got $1,000 in fixed costs for our equipment. That's our F. And the materials for each spring cost us $3. That's our V.
With this model, we can now precisely calculate our profit for any number of units sold. We can ask, how many do we need to sell just to break even? The model can tell us, no more guesswork. So, after all that, what's the big takeaway? What's the one thing that should stick with you and change the way you approach problems at work? Here's the most important thing to remember. Quantitative analysis isn't about being a math whiz. It's a mindset. It's about using a structured, data-driven approach to bring clarity to really complex situations. It's all about giving yourself the confidence to make smarter, more objective, and ultimately more successful decisions.
So I'll leave you with this question. Think about a decision you're facing right now, whether it's at work or even in your personal life. What's one area where bringing in the numbers, just a few of them, could make the path forward just a little bit clearer? Give it a try. You might be really surprised at what you find.